Beneath the endless sky, the sea waits in silence, holding stories older than the mountains. Waves rise and fall like breathing, whispering secrets in rhythms older than time itself. Tonight, I invite you to journey with me into the heart of the ocean's mystery. It is not a tale of battle or conquest, but of discovery, patience, and the call of destiny. The sea has always been alive, restless, carrying the voices of gods, mortals, and forgotten dreams. Among those voices is one that belongs to Poseidon, ruler of the deep, master of tides and storms. Yet even he, with all his might, was once touched by a secret hidden beneath the waters. A secret older than Olympus, older than thunder, older than fire carried by man. It was the Golden Trident, a relic of power, wisdom, and light. Lost to the abyss, it waited in silence, glowing softly in the dark currents. This is the story of Poseidon's journey to find it, and what he discovered within himself. So close your eyes, listen to the waves, and follow the path beneath the sea. For the ocean remembers, and tonight, it will speak to you. The sea was calm at dawn, yet beneath its surface a restless stirring had begun to rise unseen. Fishermen on distant shores felt it first, a shift in the currents that pulled nets in strange directions. Whispers carried over harbors, old sailors warning of signs that the ocean was speaking again. No storm clouds gathered, no thunder cracked. Yet the waters moved with purpose, beyond the moon's pull. It was as if the sea itself was breathing differently, sending a quiet signal through tide and wave. Children by the shore noticed seashells humming faintly, as if holding voices not their own. Even the gulls circled lower, uneasy, sensing something hidden awakening in the depths below. Poseidon, lord of the deep, felt it strongest, a subtle tremor coursing through his vast domain. He rose from his palace of coral and pearl, listening to the silence between crashing waves. For silence itself was alive now, carrying a pulse older than Olympus, steady and unrelenting. The trident he held, silver and steady, flickered faintly, though no storm was summoned by his hand. This was not his doing, nor the will of Zeus, nor the whisper of Hades below. It was something else, older, a call buried in the seabed since time before memory. Poseidon closed his eyes, reaching beyond sound, hearing the song woven into the tide itself. It was faint, golden, like sunlight shimmering far beneath the darkest trench of the ocean floor. A relic stirring, awakening, waiting, its voice brushing the edges of Poseidon's vast and timeless mind. He knew at once what it was, though he had only heard fragments and forgotten tales. The Golden Trident, older than his own, forged when sea and sky first touched in harmony. Legend said it was not a weapon, but a key, binding the waters to balance and care. Mortals never knew of it, and even the gods spoke of it only in half-remembered whispers. Yet here, in the hush of morning tides, Poseidon felt it pulse as if calling his name. He stepped deeper into the sea, his figure dissolving into foam, joining currents that swirled in rhythm. All around him, creatures stirred, dolphins leaping higher, whales singing lower, corals glowing faintly with light. The ocean was alive in a new way, as if preparing itself for a journey it remembered. Poseidon spoke no words, for none were needed. Only a vow carried silently through the salt and wave. He would follow the call, seek the source, and face whatever truth the deep waters revealed. It was not conquest he sought, nor dominion, but understanding, a harmony greater than his storms. For even gods must answer when the sea itself begins to whisper its ancient truth. And so the journey began, not with thunder or rage, but with a quiet stirring in the deep. A secret rising, a golden light waiting, a path beneath waves that no map could ever draw. This was the beginning of Poseidon's search for the Golden Trident, and for himself within its glow. The night after the sea began to stir, Poseidon closed his eyes and drifted into a vision not of dreams. Darkness surrounded him, vast and endless. Yet from its depths, a glimmer of gold began to glow faintly. It was not the glow of fire or lightning, but a warmth like dawn spilling softly into the abyss. He followed the light with his mind, deeper and deeper, until silence itself seemed to sing with it. The voice of Gaia, the Earth Mother, rose like a tide, steady and timeless, calling him by name. Poseidon, keeper of seas, hear me, she whispered, her tone both tender and unshakably strong. Beneath your waters lies a relic untouched, older than Olympus, forged when balance first was born. Poseidon stood within the vision, surrounded by shadows shaped like mountains, rivers, and whispering forests. He felt the weight of her words as if they were currents pressing upon his chest. The light brightened, forming into the shape of a trident, golden and glowing, yet not within his reach. Gaia's voice trembled like roots stretching through soil, like waves eroding stone over endless time. This trident is not power alone, but harmony, the breath between storm and stillness, fury and calm. Long ago it was hidden, cast deep where even gods hesitate to tread, waiting for one to answer. Poseidon stretched out his hand, but the trident's glow faded, becoming distant, sinking further into the dark. The vision shifted, showing him endless trenches, mountains beneath the sea, and caverns glowing with secrets. He saw paths twisting like rivers of ink, creatures of light darting like stars in a midnight sky. Yet all dissolved when he tried to hold them, slipping through his fingers like sand in the tide. Gaia's voice lingered, steady as the earth itself. Seek with patience, not pride, and you shall find. Poseidon's heart swelled, with both certainty and doubt, for even gods are not immune to uncertainty. He had ruled storms, commanded waves, and split mountains with his trident, yet this felt beyond him. The vision faded, leaving him alone, standing once more in his coral palace, the sea humming. Around him, the waters shimmered faintly, as if the dream had bled into waking reality. His trident, the silver one, pulsed in his grip, as if recognizing the call of its golden kin. Poseidon sat in stillness, listening, letting the echo of Gaia's words settle like silt on the ocean floor. A relic not meant to conquer, not meant to crush, but to heal the balance of all waters. He thought of mortals sailing fragile ships, of rivers feeding fields, of rains that gave life to earth. The sea was not only his kingdom, but the breath of the world, and it was shifting. If the Golden Trident was stirring now, then the world itself was calling for harmony once more. Poseidon rose, his eyes set not with anger, but with a steady resolve forged of silence. He would journey to the depths, beyond the reach of sunlight, into caverns where time itself slept. He would seek the relic not as a lord of storms, but as a guardian of balance. For the vision had planted a seed, and already the sea was answering with hidden songs. As he stepped into the currents, dolphins circled, whales echoed deep notes, and coral glowed faintly. The journey had begun, not by force, but by a dream carried on the voice of Gaia. And the light of the Golden Trident shimmered still in his memory, waiting to be found. On the day after the vision, Poseidon rose with purpose, the sea calm yet heavy with unspoken meaning. He knew the trident was real, and he knew the call could not be ignored, not even by him. But even gods must weigh their steps, and he sought counsel before descending into the abyss alone. The halls of Olympus shimmered above the clouds, and there he climbed, his presence like a storm held back. Zeus awaited, lightning resting in his hand, his gaze sharp as the sky he ruled without hesitation. Hades, dark and calm, rose from shadows, his silence heavier than stone, his words few but deep. Together the three brothers stood, the rulers of sky, sea, and underworld, bound yet divided by fate. Poseidon spoke first, his voice low, like waves striking cliffs in the quiet hours before dawn. I have seen the Golden Trident, not with eyes, but in vision, and Gaia herself gave the call. His words hung in the air, as if the clouds paused, waiting for thunder to answer or pass. Zeus frowned, the sky above flickering with uneasy light, for old relics meant truths older than his reign. Brother, he said, there are powers best left buried. Not all lights in the deep are meant for hands. Hades' voice followed, softer, yet cutting deeper than lightning, calm like rivers flowing beneath the world. Balance is fragile. If such a relic stirs, it may bring harmony, or it may awaken ruin. Poseidon met their eyes, steady as the tide, his resolve strong, though shadows of doubt flickered within. I do not seek conquest, he said, nor dominion beyond what I guard. I seek to understand. Zeus turned away, pacing, thunder rolling faintly, his mind heavy with storms only he could hear. You walk into depths even I cannot command, Zeus murmured. And if you falter, all will feel it. Hades' gaze did not waver, but his silence carried the weight of endless caverns and forgotten rivers. Then he spoke, one line only, soft as stone cracking under centuries. You must go alone. The words rang true, not warning but decree, for no god could share such a burden of heart. Poseidon bowed his head, not in submission, but in respect to truth, for he knew it already. The Golden Trident would not answer to a host of gods, nor bend beneath thunder or shadow. It was a relic of balance, and balance is sought in silence, not in the chorus of many. Zeus lifted his hand, lightning dimming, his face carved of storm and pride, yet his eyes softened faintly. Then go, brother, he said. But remember, power has no master, only consequence. Be certain of your heart. Hades added no more, only turned, fading like mist into silence, his presence vanishing like night. Poseidon remained, seawater dripping from his shoulders, his eyes cast not upward, but downward to the abyss. He felt the weight of both warnings, yet also the pull of the vision, steady and irresistible. Leaving Olympus, he did not rage, nor summon storm, but walked in quiet resolve into the horizon. The sea welcomed him once more, rising to meet him, foam curling like hands guiding his path. Creatures of the deep stirred in anticipation, sensing the vow carried silently in their lord's heart. The journey was his alone, but the sea itself would bear witness, carrying his steps into eternity. And so the council ended, not with thunder nor shadow, but with silence, and a god's unbroken resolve. Poseidon turned toward the depths, knowing the way forward was his, and his alone, to walk. The day came when Poseidon set his eyes not upon Olympus, but upon the endless horizon of the sea. He stood where waves kissed the sky, the air heavy with salt, the silence deeper than any storm could bring. No heralds were called, no songs were sung, for his journey began not with ceremony, but with resolve. The sea itself parted before him, as if recognizing its master's intent, clearing the path to its depths. He stepped forward, the foam dissolving beneath his feet, his form descending slowly into the endless blue. Light followed him at first, rays of the sun dancing across his shoulders, glimmering on scales of fish. But the deeper he moved, the more the light thinned, until only faint silver threads reached his path. Coral kingdoms rose in the dim glow, walls of color stretching like forests shaped from stone and breath. Schools of fish shimmered like scattered jewels, moving in harmony, as if guiding him further into mystery. Poseidon's eyes traced their dance, knowing the sea itself was leading him with signs older than words. Giant sea turtles drifted past, their shells scarred by centuries, their eyes carrying quiet wisdom unspoken. Dolphins leapt in shadows of water, circling him once, their whistles echoing like blessings of farewell. The deeper he went, the heavier the waters grew, pressing upon him with weight and with silence. Yet Poseidon did not falter, his stride steady, his heart fixed upon the golden glimmer of vision. The seabed stretched into caverns and cliffs, pillars of stone carved by currents no mortal eye had seen. He moved past arches of coral shaped like gates, glowing faintly as if blessed by hidden hands. Anemones swayed in colors bright and strange, their tendrils whispering in rhythm with the passing tide. Everywhere he looked, life flourished, vast and strange. Yet none resisted his path, for he was their lord. Still, the silence lingered, deeper than any whale song, heavier than thunder, a silence filled with promise. Poseidon paused, feeling the weight of the abyss pressing, as if the sea itself was testing his heart. Would he turn back, daunted by endless dark, or step forward into mystery none dared tread? He chose forward, his gaze sharp, his hand firm upon his silver trident, steady as mountain roots. The last traces of sunlight vanished, replaced by glowing creatures drifting like stars across an endless night. Jellyfish moved in slow rhythm, their bodies shimmering like lanterns, lighting his path into the abyss. Strange fish, with eyes like orbs, circled at a distance, their silence both eerie and reverent. The deeper he went, the louder the ocean's heartbeat seemed, a rhythm vibrating through water and bone. He passed a valley where corals glowed red and blue, pulsing in harmony, alive as if breathing. It was no longer a descent into darkness, but a passage into a cathedral built by the sea. Poseidon's steps grew slower, not from fear, but from awe, for he felt the weight of sacredness here. He knew this path was not of chance, but of destiny, the ocean guiding him toward its truth. He lifted his gaze and saw before him a chasm, vast and endless, splitting the ocean floor apart. From its depths rose a faint golden shimmer, a memory of the vision, still waiting, still calling. Poseidon inhaled deeply, his chest heavy with salt and silence, his heart steady with a vow unspoken. This was the abyss, the threshold where light surrenders, where even gods are measured by their will. He stepped closer, currents swirling around him, carrying whispers that echoed like voices too ancient to name. The sea had opened itself, and Poseidon had answered. The descent into the blue abyss now begun. Poseidon descended further, and the silence around him thickened until it felt like a living presence. The hunters' waters pressed in heavy waves, but his stride remained steady, carrying him deeper into the unknown. The abyss stretched wide, a canyon of darkness, yet glowing veins of light ran along its hidden walls. These veins shimmered like golden rivers, winding paths carved by the sea, ancient and untouched by mortals. The sight filled him with wonder, for it felt like the ocean was guiding him with secret lanterns. He reached out, his hand brushing a current that pulsed with warmth, as though it carried memory. Voices whispered in that current, soft as sighs, rising and falling like forgotten songs of the deep. He could not grasp the words, yet the meaning touched him. urging him forward with quiet insistence. The path narrowed, the walls of the abyss closing in, carved with patterns no mortal hand had traced. Symbols glowed faintly, spirals of light, circles within circles, shifting like constellations beneath the sea. Poseidon slowed, studying them, knowing they were not random, but marks of wisdom older than Olympus. The sea spoke through these symbols, etching its truths into stone, waiting for eyes that could see. As he watched, the shapes rearranged, forming patterns that pulsed with rhythm like a heartbeat. The meaning unfolded within him, not in words, but in vision, a message from the sea itself. It showed him balance, the bond between tide and land, storm and calm, gift and demand. Poseidon bowed his head, accepting the knowledge, knowing the Golden Trident was bound to these truths. He walked on, his heart heavier with wisdom, his mind filled with the weight of unseen promise. Soon the symbols faded, swallowed by dark, leaving him again in silence pierced only by drifting light. Ahead he saw a glow unlike the others, steady and bright, like a beacon of purpose. The water grew warmer as he neared, and the silence broke with faint echoes of distant song. He followed the sound, each note resonating in his chest, guiding him toward the heart of the abyss. At last, he came to a vast chamber, carved by the sea into a hall of majesty. Pillars of stone rose high, covered in coral that glowed like lanterns in the endless dark. The chamber pulsed with energy, the waters alive with unseen power that vibrated through bone and spirit. At its center lay a pedestal of stone, and upon it, a shimmer brighter than all others. It was not yet clear, but the glow was golden, brighter than the veins, stronger than the corals. Poseidon felt his breath steady, his eyes fixed, his heart recognizing what his vision had promised. The Golden Trident was near, though still veiled in the mystery of the sea's choosing. He stepped into the chamber, his silver trident held close, his eyes unwavering before the golden light. The waters trembled around him, as if acknowledging his arrival, as if holding their breath in silence. From the shadows swam great creatures, guardians of the deep, eyes glowing like pearls in the dark. They circled him, silent and watchful, their forms vast, their presence as old as the abyss itself. Poseidon did not raise his weapon, for he knew this was no trial of strength, but of spirit. The guardians drifted closer, their eyes upon him, weighing his heart, searching his soul with quiet force. He met their gaze without fear, steady and calm, his will anchored like stone in a storm. One by one they passed him, their forms vanishing into shadows, leaving the chamber in solemn stillness. Only the golden glow remained, pulsing gently, calling him closer with a voice deeper than words. Poseidon stepped forward, the sea whispering with each stride, the moment of truth drawing near. The journey had brought him far, through silence and shadow, into the heart of the abyss itself. Now he stood before destiny, with the golden light of the trident waiting, patient and eternal. Poseidon stood before the golden glow, his breath steady, his spirit anchored, the chamber humming with energy. The light pulsed softly as if alive, casting golden ripples that danced across the stone and coral walls. Each pulse felt like a heartbeat, not of one creature, but of the ocean itself, ancient and unending. He stepped closer, the waters parting gently, carrying whispers like voices lost to time, yet still remembered. The pedestal of stone held the source, a shimmer that grew brighter with every stride he took forward. It was not yet a weapon, but a shape of light, golden and radiant, waiting to be made whole. Poseidon paused, his silver trident firm in hand, aware that this was not conquest, but a sacred meeting. He felt the sea press upon him, heavy yet kind, as though watching and weighing every breath he took. The guardian's presence lingered in silence, though unseen, their judgment still echoing in the chamber's depths. The glow reached out, touching him, brushing his skin with warmth like sunlight breaking through stormy skies. Visions stirred within him, rising clear as tides, stories woven from salt, stone, and eternal current. He saw lands breaking from the sea, mountains rising, rivers flowing, the world shaped by hidden hands. He saw storms unleashed, not as fury, but as balance, a reminder of power bound to responsibility. He saw people on distant shores, their prayers cast into waves, their faith entrusted to the sea. Every image tied him closer to the truth. The trident was not only strength, but covenant. It was the bond between God and ocean, ruler and realm, a promise bound in gold and tide. Poseidon lowered his head in reverence, the weight of eternity pressing gently yet firmly into his heart. The shimmer grew brighter, shifting, condensing, forming the long shape of a weapon born of the abyss. A shaft of gold, glowing with quiet brilliance, extended upward, steady as a mast against the current. At its crown, 3 prongs emerged, sharp and radiant, not as blades, but as symbols of harmony. The middle prong gleamed brightest, pulsing with power, while the 2 beside it glowed with tempered grace. The Golden Trident had taken form, radiant yet serene, a beacon of balance rather than of conquest. Poseidon reached out, but stopped short, sensing the silence grow deeper, as if waiting for his choice. It was not simply a gift to be claimed, but a vow to be answered with truth. He closed his eyes, lifting his heart to the sea, speaking without words, but with spirit and will. I am not master of the ocean, but its guardian. I take not for myself, but for balance. The chamber stirred, currents swirling in approval, light cascading across coral like dawn rising from the deep. Poseidon opened his eyes, his hand steady, and reached once more toward the Golden Trident. This time the sea did not resist. The light grew gentle, wrapping around his fingers like silk. The warmth spread into him, coursing through his veins, carrying the rhythm of the ocean's endless song. When his hand closed around the shaft, the glow flared, filling the chamber with brilliance unmeasured. It was not blinding, but pure, as though every grain of salt and drop of water rejoiced. The guardians' forms returned, circling the chamber in solemn grace, their eyes now bright with approval. They bowed their great heads, not in servitude, but in acknowledgement, honoring his vow and choice. Poseidon lifted the trident, its weight both immense and light, a paradox woven from divine purpose. The golden prongs shimmered, cutting through the water with elegance, leaving trails of light like falling stars. The chamber vibrated with harmony, the sea itself echoing the arrival of its chosen bearer. Poseidon felt whole, not greater than the ocean, but one with it, bound in eternal covenant. He raised the trident once, and the currents swirled in celebration, weaving around him like joyful dance. The light softened, the chamber settling, but the golden glow remained steady within the trident's form. Poseidon knew then, the journey had not ended with the trident's arrival, but had only just begun. The ocean had given him its heart, and with it, the weight of protecting balance for all time. And in the silent depths of the abyss, Poseidon stood, a god reborn with golden trident in hand. Poseidon rose from the chamber, the golden trident in hand, its glow lighting the abyss like a second sun. The waters swirled around him, no longer heavy with silence, but alive with song and quiet celebration. The guardians followed in the shadows, their presence softened, no longer testing, but walking beside him as kin. He lifted the trident slightly, and the currents bent in harmony, flowing with grace, answering his silent call. Where once the abyss felt endless and cold, now it seemed vast yet welcoming, a home reborn in light. Poseidon moved upward, each stride carrying him closer to the surface. Though the sea no longer pressed against him, it carried him instead, lifting gently, as if eager to bear its chosen guardian back into the world. Coral forests glowed brighter as he passed, their colors radiant, swaying in rhythm with his newfound strength. Schools of fish followed, swimming beside him like attendants, weaving patterns that shimmered with silver and gold. Even whales sang from afar, their deep voices echoing through the water, honoring the trident's awakening. Poseidon's heart swelled with wonder, for he felt not alone, but embraced by the living breath of the sea. He glanced at the trident, golden light reflecting in his eyes, steady and calm, yet filled with promise. It was not a prize, but a vow, a bond made eternal, tying him to every tide and current. The higher he rose, the brighter the waters became, sunlight returning in threads, reaching for him once more. He broke through the last veil of darkness, greeted by dolphins leaping joyfully in the returning glow. The surface shimmered above like glass, and Poseidon surged forward, the sea parting to welcome its lord. He emerged into the open air, the horizon wide, the sky painted with dawn's first golden fire. The trident blazed in answer, casting its own light, blending with the sun as if sharing its crown. The sea stirred beneath him, waves rolling not in fury, but in reverence, their crests sparkling like jewels. Poseidon stood tall upon the waves, the golden trident steady, his silver weapon now humbled in its glow. The world seemed to pause, every breeze, every current, waiting to feel the touch of his new command. He raised the trident high, and the ocean responded, waves bowing low, then rising in joy. Seabirds circled overhead, their cries sharp and bright, as though carrying the news across distant shores. From islands far and coasts unseen, mortals looked to the sea, sensing a shift in its eternal song. Fishermen paused, their nets stilled, as the waters shimmered beneath them, pulsing like a living heart. Children on the shore laughed at sudden tides that danced to unseen rhythm, joyous and kind. Even the winds carried whispers, murmurs that spread across lands, speaking of balance restored to the sea. Poseidon lowered the trident slowly, his gaze thoughtful. His voice carried not in sound, but in silence. He spoke within, knowing the ocean heard. This power is not mine alone, but ours forever shared. The trident glowed softly in reply, its light no longer fierce, but steady, a companion of eternity. Poseidon turned his eyes across the horizon, seeing beyond water, beyond sky, into the heart of fate. He knew trials would come, storms both mortal and divine, yet none would stand outside the ocean's truth. The trident was not a shield from hardship, but a guide, a compass pointing always to balance. And so he stood, the god of the sea renewed, not in conquest, but in covenant unbroken. The sea roared in affirmation, waves crashing with joy, carrying his vow to every hidden depth. Poseidon breathed deep, salt and wind filling his chest, his spirit stronger than mountain roots, freer than air. The dawn broke fully, light spilling across ocean's face, golden as the trident he now carried. Poseidon smiled faintly, not as a king above his realm, but as its chosen guardian, forever bound. The journey through darkness had ended, but the path of light had only just begun, wide as eternity. Poseidon stood upon the waves, the golden trident glowing, its light sinking deep into the heart of the sea below. The ocean breathed around him, every tide and current alive, as if listening to the silent rhythm of his command. But even in triumph, his gaze stretched far, searching beyond the horizon, where mystery lingered like a hidden song. For the trident was not merely a gift of power, but a call, a promise tied to the threads of destiny. He felt its weight, not heavy in hand, but vast in spirit, like carrying the memory of all waters ever born. The sky above opened wide, clouds parting with grace, letting the morning sun blaze brighter across the endless expanse. Dolphins leapt around him, joyful companions, their sleek bodies slicing silver arcs through the waves of dawn. Birds wheeled high, scattering cries that echoed like hymns, a chorus marking the rise of Poseidon's renewed reign. Yet, far below, the deep stirred with whispers, ancient voices awakening, murmurs that spoke not of peace, but of caution. Poseidon felt them, faint tremors within the water, not hostile but curious, testing the balance now restored. The trident pulsed in his hand, its light flickering gently, guiding him to listen rather than to wield. So he listened, standing still, letting silence stretch until the sea itself became a vast chamber of voices. They spoke not in words, but in feelings. Gratitude, fear, longing, and a question echoing through endless depths. "Will you hold us with care?" the ocean seemed to ask. "Will you guard without chains, rule without conquest?" Poseidon lowered his eyes, his heart steady, and whispered softly, though none but the sea could hear. "I am not master above you, but one within you, bound to tides as much as they are bound to me." The golden trident glowed brighter, acknowledging truth, sealing the covenant between God and sea, guardian and realm. From far away, thunder rolled across the sky, not fierce, but distant, like a reminder that storms would return. Yet Poseidon did not fear, for storms were not enemies, only trials, shaping strength from the fabric of chaos. He began to walk across the waves, each step carrying him toward distant lands, where mortals waited unaware. They would see tides rise gentler, hear new songs in the surf, and wonder what power shifted in their world. But Poseidon knew this change was not for fear, but for harmony, a bond between sea and shore renewed. Along his path, islands awoke, their coasts shimmering with waters clear as crystal, purified by the trident's glow. Children played at the edge of the surf, laughing as waves kissed their feet, unaware they touched a god's vow. Sailors at sea felt sudden calm, storms parting before them, their ships carried by currents soft as guiding hands. Even creatures of the deep, once hidden, now drew nearer, their eyes gleaming with trust in the golden light. Poseidon carried on, not as a conqueror demanding praise, but as a guardian whose power lay in gentle strength. He paused once more, gazing back across the ocean, where dawn's fire met the horizon, endless and eternal. The trident shimmered, its golden fire steady, a beacon not only for him, but for every soul of the sea. And so Part 8 closed not with battle or triumph, but with quiet promise, a covenant carried by waves, unbroken. Poseidon walked onward, guided by tide and light, toward destiny's horizon, where new journeys would begin to unfold. The horizon stretched before Poseidon, endless and bright, yet within its beauty lay questions unspoken, mysteries yet unseen. The golden trident hummed softly, its glow steady as though urging him forward, guiding each step across the breathing sea. Every wave lifted him gently, no longer resistance, but support, carrying the god as one of its own children. Yet even in peace, Poseidon felt a pull, a whisper beyond the surf, calling him to distant waters. It was not the sea alone, but something older, deeper, a current that flowed beneath all oceans of the world. The trident flickered, its golden light dimming for a heartbeat, not in weakness, but as if listening to the call. Poseidon slowed his steps, closing his eyes, letting silence stretch until the soundless voice reached into his heart. It spoke of memory, of ancient covenants older than gods, bonds forged when the first waters kissed the newborn earth. The ocean remembered, always, and it called him not as a ruler, but as a child returning to its cradle. He felt the truth like salt in his veins, a reminder that no god could truly claim what was eternal. The trident pulsed again, warmer now, its light strengthening, not as a weapon, but as a bridge between old and new. Poseidon opened his eyes, and the world shimmered, the sea's surface breaking into patterns that revealed hidden pathways. Currents glowed faintly, weaving luminous trails across the deep, showing routes only a god might walk or understand. He followed, each step upon the water resonating, echoing with the rhythm of tides that had no beginning or end. The dolphins quieted, the birds hushed, as though aware this journey was sacred, meant for him alone to tread. He passed coral towers glowing with unseen fire, and trenches vast and shadowed, alive with whispers of forgotten time. The sea opened itself, revealing wonders untouched by mortal eyes, beauty hidden not out of cruelty, but protection. Poseidon's heart swelled, not with pride but with reverence, for he saw the sea not as his, but as sacred. The trident guided him deeper into this path of light, until he reached a place where silence thickened. Here, the ocean song paused, and Poseidon stood still, waiting, knowing something vast was preparing to awaken. From the depths, a glow began, faint at first, then spreading, illuminating the water with hues of emerald and blue. It formed into shapes, great and flowing, not creatures, not gods, but the very spirit of the sea itself. The voice returned, not sound, but presence, filling his being with both calm and gravity, like standing before eternity. You hold the trident, child of the sea, it said within him. But do you hold the heart that binds it? Poseidon bowed his head, humbled, the golden light flickering softly, reflecting not power, but responsibility. He answered, not with boast or promise, but truth. I am bound to the ocean, as it is bound to me. The spirit glowed brighter, its vast form folding gently around him, like waves embracing the shore with quiet care. Then carry it not as king above, the presence whispered, but as guardian within. For this bond must never break. The trident blazed, golden fire mingling with the sea's glow, until light and water became one, inseparable and eternal. Poseidon felt the covenant seal within him, not chains, but roots, binding his soul to the ocean's breath forevermore. And when the vision faded, he stood once more upon the waves, the sea calm, the horizon glowing with promise. He walked forward, the trident steady in hand, its light no longer just his, but the ocean's voice made visible. Part 9 closed not with triumph, but with reverence, a vow renewed, carried upon tides that would never forget. Poseidon moved onward across the waves, the golden trident steady, its glow soft yet unyielding, like fire within water. The sea followed in harmony, currents weaving together, carrying songs that seemed to rise from the depths of creation. Every step echoed, not just across the surface, but deep into hidden trenches where silence had once been absolute. The trident pulsed gently, sensing a new rhythm, not of the sea alone, but of the mortal world beyond. Poseidon lifted his gaze, watching the horizon where distant shores shimmered, alive with voices and lives bound to the sea. He felt their presence, the fishermen, the sailors, the children at play, all tied to tides that they did not command. The ocean breathed for them, cradled them. Yet mortals rarely saw the sea as kin, but as endless mystery. Now, with the Golden Trident in hand, Poseidon's task was not only to protect, but to teach, to remind. The sea was not a foe to be feared, but a companion, vast and eternal, deserving of reverence and care. He reached a bay where cliffs rose high, waves brushing against rocks that had endured centuries of salt and storm. Mortals stood along the shore, gazing at the sudden glow upon the water, whispers rising like sparks in the air. They did not know his face, yet they felt his presence, awe and calm, mingling in the beating of their hearts. Poseidon did not step upon the land, for he belonged to the waves, but he let the sea speak for him. Tides shifted gently, pulling back to reveal treasures of shells and pearls, gifts of the deep laid upon the sand. Children laughed as they found them, their small hands cupping the ocean's kindness, unaware it was a god's gentle greeting. Fishermen bowed their heads, nets stilled, as calm waters promised safe journeys, a blessing woven into every ripple. The mortals felt it, not fear, but peace, as though the sea had spoken in a language older than words. Poseidon smiled faintly, for this was the bond he sought, not dominance, but unity, a harmony between shore and tide. Yet even in peace, the trident flickered again, a reminder that his path stretched farther, into mysteries yet untold. The god turned from the bay, his gaze returning to the open sea where the horizon shimmered with hidden promise. He walked on, waves carrying him, guiding him to where light met shadow, where calm met storm's restless edge. Clouds gathered far away, their dark forms twisting, not in anger, but in warning, a trial awaiting his strength. Poseidon knew storms would come, not as enemies, but as teachers, shaping the balance he now vowed to protect. The sea itself seemed to whisper, "Do not turn from trial," for in trial the covenant proves unbroken. The Golden Trident glowed brighter, steady in his hand, ready not to conquer the storm, but to walk through it. For storms were not to be slain, but embraced, their fury tempered into balance, their chaos woven into order. He pressed onward, each step taking him deeper into shifting winds, where waves began to rise with restless energy. Dolphins scattered, birds fled inland, yet Poseidon remained, calm in the heart of a sea preparing to awaken. The horizon darkened, lightning flashing like silver veins across the sky, thunder rolling with the voice of ancient giants. Poseidon lifted the trident, its golden light cutting through shadow, not in defiance, but as a beacon of harmony. The storm loomed closer, vast and unyielding. Yet he did not falter, for this was the path the sea demanded. Part 10 closed not with peace, but with the breath of trial, as God and storm prepared to meet as equals. The storm passed, leaving the sea calm, waves shimmering with light, as though the ocean itself had been reborn anew. Poseidon stood tall, the Golden Trident steady, its glow softened, no longer blazing, but warm like dawn after long night. He breathed deeply, salt and wind filling his chest, his spirit anchored, no longer restless, but at peace within. The sea stretched endless before him, not conquered, not tamed, but alive, bound to him as he was bound to it. He remembered the trials, the silence of the abyss, the whispers of the guardians, the covenant of the ocean's spirit. Each step, each moment had shaped him not as a king above, but as a guardian within the heart of tides. The trident hummed softly, no longer demanding, but guiding, its golden fire weaving with the sea's eternal breath. Poseidon turned his eyes to the horizon, where sky kissed water, a line unbroken, endless as fate itself. He saw not only what was, but what would be. Storms to come, trials ahead, yet harmony never lost. For balance was not perfection, but a dance, an ebb and flow, or even chaos at its sacred place. He smiled faintly, knowing the ocean had chosen well, not for power, but for promise, for patience, for care. Mortals upon distant shores felt the change, their nets filled with plenty, their journeys guided by calmer seas. Children played at the water's edge, their laughter bright as gulls, unaware of the covenant woven beneath their joy. Sailors whispered of gentler tides, of storms that parted with grace, of a presence walking with them unseen. They did not see Poseidon, but they felt him, a guardian whose hand touched every ripple, every breath of wave. The god did not demand temples, nor offerings, nor songs, for his temple was the sea itself, infinite and sacred. His offering was care, his song the roar of tides, his covenant written in currents that never ceased. Poseidon lifted the trident one last time, golden light arcing across the water, mingling with the rising sun. It was not a farewell, but a vow renewed, a promise that the sea would never walk alone. The waves bowed low, then rose again, carrying his vow to every shore, every hidden depth, every waiting heart. From coral forests to deepest trenches, from rivers flowing to sea, all life felt the golden thread of harmony. The trident glowed softly, not to blind, but to remind, a beacon of balance shining through time, unbroken. Poseidon lowered it slowly, his gaze steady, his heart calm, knowing his journey had only shifted, never ended. For guardianship was eternal, as vast as the sea itself, as endless as the horizon stretching before him. He turned, walking deeper into the waves, his form merging with water, until sea and God were one. No throne, no crown, only the boundless tide, carrying him onward, a guardian unseen, yet forever present. The ocean sang softly, not of conquest, but of care, its song flowing through every shore, every heart. And so it would remain, not a kingdom of chains, but a covenant of light, of balance everlasting. Poseidon, lord of the sea, guardian of the Golden Trident, walked on, his journey endless as the tide. The sea breathed, the horizon glowed, and the story closed, not in ending, but in eternity's open embrace.